There we go. And we open the floodgates.
Here we are. Woohoo! Thursday night.
Thursday night, another Thursday night under the shade.
Absolutely. Another one that we well and truly need. Look at Just there with his hat on.
Good evening, the Thursday crew. We got Davo, Justo, Dave Phillips, Domo, that'll be Dominic.
Yeah.
Kimo, Alex, Jason, Reza, Shane, Jason Chan, Carl, John Ward, Shane Dixon, Mike Leyland, Scott, Roger, joining there from 2001 Space Odyssey.
Roger the Dodger.
Roger the Dodger. Paul Leyland messaged me, said he couldn't be here to record the tasting.
Oh, he's probably building a...
He's finishing his house. If he's going to listen to this part, all the best with those nail guns and putting no more gaps all around. So, no more gaps. What would we do without no more gaps?
You fill it with whiskey.
Fill with what? Yes. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining another Thursday night. And today we got a very special guest. I'm going to introduce everyone. Innes McIntosh, directly from Ben Nevis Distillery in Fort Williams. How are you, Innes?
I'm very good, and I'm really happy to be here and to be able to share our love for whiskey with some people from across the other side of the globe.
On the other side of the equator. That's as far as you can get, pretty much.
Yeah.
Innes, tell us about what you do for Ben Nevis. What's your role?
Sure. So I work for the Ben Nevis Visitor Centre. I do tours. I've been to some whiskey events as a kind of salesperson as well. I've been here for a few years, but I've grown up and I was born in Fort William as well. So Ben Nevis has always been it's been a big presence in Fort William for the whole of my lifetime anyway. And it's lovely to actually be involved in a local business and to be able to share local produce as well,
It's thank you for joining. And you normally in normal circumstances you'll be doing this while you walk us through those cellars and the visitor center. And because of the circumstances, we're doing this live, which allows, as I was telling earlier to you, all of us to spend a lot less and get almost as much satisfaction. Of course, you never get the real thing and touch the barrel and drink off the barrel and and the hospitality of the Scottish people, which is amazing. Yeah. But I think we all adapt.
And Ben Nevis has always been a massive favorite amongst our group, and like Australia in general. Ben Nevis is massively popular, as it is with all whiskey enthusiasts worldwide. But we've always had a very, very soft spot for Ben Nevis. So it's great to jump into it tonight.
Australians, we got the things that we love. Cask whiskey is finished, like this. That's what Sullivan's Cove make their big reputation with the port cask and the sherry cask or para cask, and I hear we got one of the best distilleries at it.
Yeah, 100%.
So
the four founders.
Did we send a beer with this? No, we didn't.
Don't believe so.
Anyway, we got a beer, and in Australia we do the Boilermakers. So this is a whiskey. Let's get everyone then, if they don't have a beer, to pour the first drink, and then we go to Innes and he tell us a little about the distillery history.
Yes.
Sure. Well, we're gonna start as I don't know if everyone there might be a few people that hasn't done tastings with us. What I would highly recommend is that you have at least 6 glasses or less if you want, but and do not finish the sample, because we revisit the whiskeys back and forth. So that's when we get the most out of it. And we always say that the palate takes at least half an hour to warm up, and then you start noticing the big nuances between the whiskeys. And so always leave a little bit behind to benchmark against. So
Sean's just come in there as well. G'day, Sean, and Zalio. It's good to see everyone trickling in as well.
Oh boy, Shan.
Scott, come in. G'day, Scott.
Yeah.
So we're gonna tasting order for the night.
The tasting order for the night. We're gonna go for traditional 10-year-old Then we're gonna go for the McDonald's Ben Nevis. Then we're gonna do the Signatory bottling. Then we're going to the single cask 12-year-old. Then we go to the liquor library, and we finish with the 22-year-old official bottling single cask.
So we'll make
There's a reason we're doing this, and we'll explain as we go on tasting. So put yourself your 15-year-old, sorry, your 10-year-old, your official bottling 10-year-old, and Ines is gonna. Since when, Ines, this is because amazing. Tell us a little about the story of Ben Nevis when it started, and there's been a couple closures and reconversions there. Tell us a lot about that.
Sure. Well, Ben Nevis Distillery was founded in 1825, so it's nearly 200 years that we've been going, and it was founded by a man called John McDonald, and McDonald is a surname that you'll see all around the Fort William area. That's historically one of the big clans. So John McDonald founded the distillery, and he was actually known locally as Long John because he was about 6'6". So he was a very tall man.
Long John.
And Long John. So he was the one that set up the distillery on this spot. Now we do think that he might have been a bit of a bootlegger. So when I say we've been founded since 1825, that's on a legal basis. We might have been making whiskey, illicit whiskey, a little bit before that as well. But he set up the distillery, and we've been on the same spot for the whole time that we've been operating. Because what we feel is key to our whiskey is the water that we get, which comes from Ben Nevis, which is Britain's highest mountain, about 4,500 feet. And the water that we use in our whiskey is mainly snow melt and rainwater.
It comes from the river?
Water. Yeah, from a river. So
or it's
the
not
river
is the river.
Yeah, so it's a river. So on the north face of Ben Nevis, there's a lot of cliffs. One of the longest lasting snow patches for the year will be there. And it means there's a constant stream flowing off Ben Nevis. This is called the Altavulin, which is a Gaelic name. And that's where we get the water from. And that's why our whiskey, even our most heavily peated whiskies, will always have an underlying softness to them because of the water that we use. The water that we use is very clear, very soft and smooth, and that has a huge influence on why our whiskey tastes the way it does. So for that reason, we've stayed in the same location for the whole time that we've been in production. And we actually still do have part of the original 1825 building in the distillery. It's actually getting restored at the moment. So if anybody's thinking about visiting Ben Nevis at some point, I would say in a year or two, you'll be able to actually visit the original distillery building from 1825. And I think it'll be very special because the stonework's been getting restored recently, and I think it'll look incredible.
Amazing. And you guys warehouse all the stock at Fort Williams?
Certainly, yeah, that we do. We've got 10 warehouses, 9 or 10 warehouses, and I can show you a photo of some of the warehouses if you'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I'll just.
I think you have the permissions to share.
Sure, I'll just do that for you here. So this is a photo I took the other day. This is from our cask shed number 5. Let me just see if I can share. Oh, I'm not sure I do have permission actually right now.
Let me just find you here. Where are you? Here it is. More make co-host. You haven't make you co-host. There you go.
There you go. Should be good now.
You should be good. You should have the share screen button in the middle there.
There we go. Brilliant. I've got that now. So this is in cask shed number 5. This is one of our biggest cask sheds. It's got about 7,000 casks in this building alone, and I'll just kind of show you what ones we've got here. And yeah, all of our whiskey is casked and matured on site. And actually, Ben Nevis make quite a lot of blended whiskey as well, particularly because the most famous whiskey that we made back in the 1800s was a blend known as the Long John Stew of Ben Nevis. Yeah. And we still make blends, although we no longer make the grain whiskey to go into the blends, but we do mature all our grain whiskey on site as well. So we've got both grain whiskey and malt whiskey maturing in our casks in Fort William. And like I say, we've got about between 30,000 and 40,000 casks on site at any one time. Yeah. And we're actually in the process of upgrading one of our sheds. So if I show you this photo here, so this is very new, all the shelving, and this should allow us to have our casks stored in a more modern way rather than the traditional dunnage, and it allows us to get 4 or 5 layers right up to the roof. So we should actually have a lot more capacity over the next few years. So that'll take a bit of time to fill up. But yeah, all of our whiskey is matured on site.
Amazing. Those warehouses, it's like whiskey porn.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's just that amount of whiskey. It's and so traditional Ben Nevis style, or what we conceive as traditional contemporary Ben Nevis style, is always a bit of sherry component. So on this 10-year-old, kind of what is the percentage of sherry versus bourbon, and
It'll spend the majority of its time in the bourbon cask. By that, it'll be at least 9 years, and then the last few months will be in a sherry cask. The 10-year-old will generally be about 6 months in a sherry cask to finish off. However, sometimes it will be a little bit longer, sometimes it'll be a little bit less. So there's an element of very slight variation year on year, but the majority of the time will be in a bourbon cask.
And this is is this batch blended, or this is a Solera?
It is batch blended, this one.
Batch blended. Wow. Yeah. Amazing. Sort of like honeydew, marzipan, a bit of
the end sherry maturation. I would assume that's what lends to it. Just gives it this amazing, rich textural mouthfeel. And I think that this whiskey, the Ben Nevis 10-year-old in particular, is vastly different than a lot of its 10-year-old compatriots from other distilleries. And one thing when we show this to people, straight away everyone is like, goes for this one. And I think it's the richness and
it is
that sort of really decadent profile that comes from.
I was talking earlier before with Ines on the before everyone joined and everything. I was saying, like, for me, the two most solid entry single malt whiskies are Ben Nevis 10 and Springbank 10-year-old.
Yep.
They will be the two, and they both share the same small distillery, with a very particular profile, which gives the customer, they know what they're getting straight away. Like, it's and it's such a small distillery, which also, if I would say, these are the two distilleries that if someone walks into the store and asks for any of those, is that these guys are a whiskey drinker. They're not just like a new whiskey drinker, they are seasoned whiskey drinkers. Like, it's part, that's part of like what we call customer profiling. If they straight away, if they ask for Ben Nevis, is like, you can probably up your speech already. The customer knows.
You're talking to someone who's got a different understanding of the whiskey, landscape.
Correct. These distilleries that are now more of word of mouth than kind of own marketing. It's not like big billboards of Ben Nevis, and it's more the independent whiskey stores or liquor stores that do a lot of that together with the distillery and put the whiskey on the right place to get given to the right hands. Which I would say that is also the ethos of Ben Nevis. Let's get one of our whiskey crew. What do they think about it? I know Justin loves Ben Nevis. He's another one. He's one of those that, you're a big Ben Nevis fan. What do you reckon of the 10-year-old? You share that solid thought?
Yeah. So this batch of 10-year-old actually, I think the sherry isn't as harsh in this one. The bourbon shines through a bit more, and you and I have had conversations many a time. I think for me personally, Ben Nevis shines the more bourbon there is, and then you just get that nice little kick of sherry at the end, just to give it that funkiness that we all love about Ben Nevis. And you're right, it is a solid whiskey, Ben Nevis. It really is.
You know what you're getting, right? It's like Ben Nevis is one of those drums that are not expensive. You might drink like very nice single casks of whatever, and then the pricey stuff. But when you want to drink something easy and sessionable, you know what you're getting with Ben Nevis. And every time you taste it back, you go, that's why I love this whiskey. That's the way. And so Ines, Ben Nevis used to have a column still,
Mhm.
right? Until when was that?
It was removed around about the late 1980s, but it wasn't used past the late 1970s. So in round about just after World War II, actually, it was the distillery was bought by a Canadian investor called Joseph Hobbs, and he experimented with quite a few different things to do with the distillery. He replaced the washbacks with concrete washbacks for a small spell, and he also installed a column still, and that was used for around about 20 to 30 years. It stopped getting used around about the late 70s, and then it was finally removed in the late 1980s when Nika purchased the distillery.
So decommissioned in the 80s, installed in the mid 40s, and decommissioned in the 80s. Yeah, wow. And that's why Ben Nevis there was doing grain and malt on the same site.
Yeah, it was one of only 2 distilleries in the world to ever have done both types in the same, or certainly in Scotland, it was one of only 2 distilleries in the history of Scottish whisky to do grain and malt whisky in the same site and then put it into a blend.
Yeah.
Even prior to the column still being installed, there was actually a second distillery there's been 3 distilleries in Fort William in throughout history, but there was a second one commissioned in 1878 that was called Nevis, and that was opened as a supplementary distillery to this one, and that was where the grain whisky was made for long enough, and that would the grain whisky would be made about a mile along the road at Nevis Distillery. It would then be taken here and blended to make the Dew of Ben Nevis or Long John's Dew, and that distillery actually closed in 1905. And I believe some of the equipment for making the grain was taken to this distillery for a short spell, and then it was after the war that the column still was installed.
I would say after the war, there will be so much lack of alcohol everywhere around the world because people will be drinking crazy, sending alcohol. That probably was the way. The thought was like, we need to maybe build up the stocks, and they need a column still.
Yeah, for World War III, we're gonna have enough whiskey.
I already love this so much. I already drank my sample and
poured the 10 is just awesome, and we'll talk a bit more about tasting notes as we go on for the later ones. But this is just so exceptional, and the like toffiness to with like chewy caramel,
solids like
figs. It's just
figs, dehydrated figs or dates. You know,
this is an awesome.
I always like to just describe it as liquid Christmas cake. I think it's always a good way of kind of summing it up because it has that kind of spice.
That's my kind of
Christmas lunch. I love that sort of tasting note as well.
Let's move on now. Not move on, but let's pour down now the McDonald's Ben Nevis, traditional McDonald's celebrated. So this is a bottling that got introduced, I do believe, around 2012, maybe, or 2010. Is that right?
Yes, 2011 it was, I believe.
11. Yes.
Right in the middle.
So 11 was the first time, as you explained, McDonald's was the original owner, and it's great to have you here to explain because I've been trying for many years did my own research, and this was a replica of what Ben Nevis would have tasted like on the early 1900s. Of course, I was showing you earlier an old bottling that I have of these. This one is the one. This one is the batch that is hand signed by Alex Ross,
yes.
which unfortunately passed away last year. Probably would be maybe third batch by then, I would say, from my knowledge of the batching. But tell us a little bit about this. What is this whiskey? Why it got created, and kind of what is the formulation?
Well, this whiskey is our kind of our attempt to, like you say, replicate a traditional recipe. Now there was.
I lost him for 1 minute. Okay.
Let's have a look where we are.
Let's have a look.
In my-
Yeah, no, we all. I can see Owen moving. So this time it's not us,
Yeah.
which is good.
And
Ines
there's
will be back.
maybe we're having a little technical difficulty on your end or our end there.
He said no. He said to me that the bandwidth is not very
not very good.
not very good in Fort William. So
2 minutes, probably 5 o'clock there. Everyone
yeah.
jumping on and
there he is
checking their
back.
emails.
Yeah, there you go.
Hi. Sorry.
Don't worry, mate. We done these ones in the past ourselves, and we learn our way. So everyone's used to a little bit of an intermission sometimes.
Yeah. So we lost you from the start there. We were just jumping into the traditional Ben Nevis.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so the traditional is like you say, it's an attempt to replicate a traditional recipe and an old school whiskey, really. Now, distilleries seem to be very good at losing things and recovering them years later, because we found a bottle in just around about the late 90s. We found a bottle from 1882, and this bottle still had the seal on it, and it actually resembled very closely the bottle that you have in front of you in terms of the label.
No.
And what we decided was we wanted to, rather than rip the seal off a bottle that was about 110 years old, we decided that we wanted to try and replicate that whiskey. So we went through the old recipe books, and we decided that we would try and replicate that whiskey as best as we could, obviously with modern equipment, but maybe using slightly more traditional ingredients. So for this one, we use heavily peated barley because there'd be no way back in the late 1800s to malt the barley and then dry it without leaving some smoke in it. So this
right, there was no electricity, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
barley needed to be dry with peat of just
Exactly.
Just wood or whatever they had. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly the reasoning behind making this a heavily peated whiskey. It's about 13 years old, though year on year it does vary. And again, we spend most of the time in a bourbon cask with just a little bit of sherry cask in that as well, which just gives it that richness. However, though, it is still using the water that we use. There's no peat in our water, which is why, compared to something like Lefroy possibly, which would have about 90 ppm peatiness, this one here is about 45. So it won't be as peaty as, say, an Islay single malt. So I think it's certainly certainly a lot smoother in terms as a even though it does have that peatiness, it's much smoother than some peaty whiskies that you would get.
So 16 the just as a matter of a giggy thing, this is one of the, I would say, could be one of the first batches, but this is maybe the third batch, and I know in between there was a batch with a screw top that had no. Funny enough, the one with the screw top doesn't have a code. No, it doesn't have the printed code. So if you're browsing auctions and you see, the thing is that the first batch doesn't have this signature of Alex Ross. I can't remember the screw top we had, but we drink them all and throw the bottles away, unfortunately. So we can't have all the bottles that we drank. The first batch has sediment. This is the third batch, still like great whiskey, but I just had what he had in hand. And literally that was my last bottle. I need to go and buy more. Yeah. But don't go and bid against me on the auctions. Bloody hell. It's turning really difficult now.
And now the batch today, the most recent, is done in the traditional Ben Nevis bottling that you 10
correct. It is changed from the tall traditional Scottish
has got one there.
whiskey bottle. You got one and you're showing. I'm going to highlight you.
Yeah, this was launched about 2 years ago, this particular style of bottle. And I should actually say that the 10-year-old has been rebranded recently as well, but the recipe is the same in both bottles. We've not changed the recipe at all. I would say, however, that certainly with the 10-year-old, that I've heard that some of the previous style bottles of the 10-year-old, like the one that you have, apparently they're becoming quite desirable. So I don't know if you've maybe got some sitting around that haven't been opened, but that might be a little bit of a.
They are. don't tell these people because they go and bid against me on the auction. It's terrible.
That's
Don't-
the thing. The thing about Australia is we've still got these old ones. It takes a year for the ship to come to sail over before we get it.
So now having a nose one against the other, you know, it's like you see how more rich is the McDonald's. Yeah, and you see a lot more the bourbon side of Ben Nevis on the tin, and they're a lot more the kind of dirty. It's not peat as like Isla style peat as Ines was saying. It's like more that smoke of bonfire, maybe, you know, which is amazing, and maybe a little bit of sulfur, which I actually enjoy. We don't have sulfur police today in joining the tasting. Paul's not in.
Yeah, I completely agree that smoke / little bit of peat is bloody delicious on that Ben Nevis, and it is making the 10-year-old those bourbon notes sing, but also a little bit sweeter. So if we're talking about those Christmas cakes this is definitely a sweet Christmas cake, or really dark figs and that sort of thing at the moment. They're great side by side.
Let's ask my mate Rob.
Yes.
Rob is one of those that loves Ben Nevis also, like every other customer that we have, but it's one of those.
I think it's easier to say those that.
Rob, how many bottles we consume of McDonald's Ben Nevis? Remember the first time we opened?
Yeah, a few. A few.
Not too many, right?
No, but a good amount, the right amount.
They're right.
One fewer than the right amount. We need another one.
You see, the difference is amazing, huh? It's
Oh yeah,
unenjoyable. Like the difference. What do you reckon?
yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say that that we haven't said 1,000 times before. It's just it's a classic, right? It's got the things that you want. It's got a good balance. It's got a bit of punchiness to it. It's what you look for.
And 46%.
Yeah,
46% has flavor.
Yeah.
Which most of us, the cask strength junkies, we want flavor, and 46% this, but packs a lot of flavor. So, do you know, Ines, how much around the size of the bottlings of McDonald's will be, or what's the size of each batch, maybe?
I'm not certain on the size of each batch, but we do in terms of when we only make it for 2 weeks every year. We have like a heavily peated production spell, and that will last for about 2 weeks, and that will give us sufficient to McDonald's for that year. So it's essentially flat out 24/7 production for 2 weeks each year, and then that's followed by a 2-week maintenance period, because obviously after you make a heavily peated batch, you want to have everything cleaned down. Yeah, so it's so in terms of, I would guess you'd probably get maybe somewhere about 40 to 50 batches during that period, and that would be something like about 100,000 bottles, I guess. But it might just
which is not
same 2 weeks every year.
Not much.
It's so it is the same. I just saw Dominic's asking if it's the same 2 weeks every year there, and it is the same 2 weeks. And sometimes it will be 2 blocks of 2 weeks, but this year we're just doing 1 block. It's always in the middle of just before Christmas, and then it's always just before the height of summer, but we're missing out the summer production block right now.
So basically you schedule it before the Christmas break, so you can close during Christmas break and then clean up during Christmas break. More
exactly.
Makes sense. But I think Dom was just asking because he's probably going to book his first holiday on the same to go in and drink. So I know you.
The distillery smells amazing during those few weeks. Also, I saw just a few minutes ago when I was talking about being only one of only 2 distilleries that did grain and malt whiskey on site. I saw that Dave had said that Lochside was the other one, and he's totally right.
Correct.
He's totally spot on. Lochside was the other one that did both types.
Yeah, I'm loving this tasting and can't wait to taste the next one.
Yes, it's cracking. Shall we pop the 9-year-old Signatory vintage?
So very atypical to get from Ben Nevis, and there's been historically some very few bourbon casks releases, single casks, but one of those is independent bottlers that champions a lot. Ben Nevis is Signatory vintage. This is a batting of 2 barrels, 2 bourbon barrels, 144, 147, 9-year-old, distilling 11, bottling 2020, bourbon cask Ben Nevis. This just arrived from us a couple of weeks ago. We got this one from La Maison. Bourbon Ben Nevis is one of those things that is I would say an eye opener, because the distillery doesn't do this style itself, but then you get to see what the spirit is like, and it's unbelievable.
It's cracking. We've had a couple come through over the last couple of years that have been that just
Killers.
The Ben Nevis 7 from the Artist Collective was one.
And there's a Signatory cask too. The ones that the Casa de Vinos, the liquor library that we did with Whisky Agency, that was the 21-year-old. That was a stunner, and I regret not having enough bottles saved for that. Innes, you obviously have this one. What do you reckon about? Have you tasted these ones? Do you already taste them, or?
I've nosed it. I've not tasted it yet, actually, purely just because it is quite early in the morning for us. So I'll probably give it a go later on. But there's that lovely sweetness, and there's that dessert kind of smell that you really get from this one, and I thought that was so striking, and possibly more so than some of the other whiskies. I thought it was. And I've seen people saying things like candy floss and custard, and it's got that kind of creaminess, but there's also that bit of little sweetness and sugary sweetness as well, rather than it's I've not properly tasted this one yet, but certainly off the nose I got a lot of that kind of sweetness.
We won't throw you under the bus, and I know it's very early in Scotland, and you're not in lockdown, so you.
Not at the moment, no.
Yeah, we don't judge. We're all locked in, and if you start drinking early, well, it's what you need to do.
Yeah,
what it is. Such is life.
Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, but I would like to know our friend Sean. What is he thinking about this?
I think he's thinking good thoughts.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Sean?
I'm loving this. Struggling to focus a little bit tonight with some other stuff going on, but pudding's right on it for me. I think maybe like a creme brulee kind of thing, kind of those the creamy notes and the sweet sugars really coming out.
Milk bottles. The candies milk bottles. This is 101 for me. Milk bottles. This is like, and I've never had milk bottles in my youth in Uruguay.
No,
that's so bad.
You came over to Australia.
I can't get over it. That I never knew milk bottles until I came to Australia. But this represents milk bottles.
Yeah. So you never got to put the milk bottles in the microwave.
Do you do that?
No.
Can you do that?
Yeah, it's like the milk bottles and those bananas.
Is it possible you
pop them in the hand?
Don't make me burn my microwave because I don't know if you're saying it's
more than
right
30,
or wrong.
More than 30 seconds they explode. 10 seconds. Perfect.
If you see tomorrow an angry Alana, that's like what happened. Okay. This is literally candy floss. This is creme brulee, as Sean was saying, maybe like really light.
Well, I only just tasted that. Truckloads of grainy stuff coming through on the back of the palate as well.
Milk chocolate. Yeah. And apple, they're saying Granny Smith. I reckon it's Granny Smith also, like apple skins, oxidized apple. I would say that's that brown apple when you get it out of your kid's school bag.
Oh yes,
that's what it smells.
Bottom of the school bag.
Bottom of the school bag apple. That's I think that's the bottom of the school bag.
I reckon it's
actually smells like the bag with the apple inside before you wash it.
It's got a bit of elegance there. It could be
Dom, what do you reckon about this?
I was saying, mate, this one was definitely approaching nosegasm for me.
It's getting there, and incredible for a 9-year-old, right?
I know, just fantastic. Sniff this all night.
Ben Nevis is one of those distilleries that you don't need to spend a lot of money to get a really good whiskey, right? It delivers very, with really youthful whiskey. It's
Definitely, and I think the contrast between young Ben Nevis and older Ben Nevis, and obviously there's the bourbon and the sherry influence, but it's one of those things where it shines in a different way at that age of, be it 5 to 10 years, and then quite differently as it gets older. And this fruity young bourbon cask Ben Nevis, they've become a bit of a favorite down here.
I want everyone to do this exercise. Just grab the smell number 3 and then smell the traditional one, and you see how much power the 10-year-old has. Because the number 3 gives you all this freshness, and then you go to number 1, and then it's like number 1 is so powerful. The 10-year-old. The amount of sherry is very noticeable, which is great, and but still so in tune and so well integrated, I would say.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Oh, 100%. It's the happy medium, isn't it? And then the Ben Nevis with that little bit of peat, and I think this 9-year-old, it's a great spot to have it in on the tasting.
And number 2 is sensational. A bit of that sort of subtle smoke, charcoaly. You got almost like small goods, small goods, or like maybe we'll say
On the traditional,
duck prosciutto, like
duck
that
prosciutto,
that
funky gaminess,
smoked duck gamey.
but it's bloody welcomed.
I know. I hope everyone's enjoying this the same way I am. It's a distillery that everyone knows that I was I collect Ben Nevis, and unfortunately I open a lot of my bottles. Unfortunately for me, but for everyone else that was on the tasting, it's fortunately that I open most of my bottles. But it's one of those distilleries that captivated me from the beginning when I started pretty much getting to know whiskey, not drink, just know whiskey. Just finding this variation between single casks and official bottlings, and there's like always something new to look forward to. It's amazing.
And they are.
Yeah.
And a cracking sort of way to do them so far. Maybe we jump to someone else for a couple of thoughts.
Yeah.
Kim, what do you reckon of the first 3?
Mate, I'm really loving the 10-year-old after hitting the Signatory. Just the nose is just really sort of caramel butterscotch. That's really welcome for me.
100% completely agree.
I'm still rating the 3. It's amazing. It's like they drink all at the same level of enjoyment, I would say. It's not like one that I would not like. See, when you find yourself that maybe you're drinking only 2 and leaving the one behind or something, because these ones are like I'm within the 3.
That's a great call.
Yeah.
These are all whiskies that I would have for a different occasion. They've all got their beautiful place.
So we're gonna move now to whiskey number 4, the single cask number 811. This is a bottle of 46%. It's also 1996, but this is a good opportunity. We all tasted a lot of 1996 Ben Nevis because one of those 96, 97s were a lot of those vintages that we got to see a lot from independent bottlers around Europe and Scotland. But we get to see 96, 97s where they were around 20 years plus, 17, 18 years plus. This is an official bottling of a 1996 bottle at 12 years of age. This what I don't know. This is maybe just distillery bottling. Released. This is not made for any whiskey club.
Single cask?
Yeah, single cask, 12 years old. Let's get onto it and see
see what this little beauty brings from the color.
Yeah, correct.
My interest is definitely.
Ines, tell us a little bit about the purchase from Nika and the kind of a little bit of change in direction, maybe there, if you can, whatever you can tell us on. Or the Ben Nevis was probably pitching a lot more and then they stopped peating a lot of the whiskey, maybe. Back before Nika.
Sure. Well, so, like I say, the distillery was purchased by a Canadian investor, Joseph Hobbs, in the 1940s. I think 1946, I believe, was the year that he actually purchased the distillery. And interestingly enough, he also at one point owned not every distillery in Fort William at the same time, but at some point he has owned each of the distilleries that have operated in Fort William. And he, like I say, experimented a lot with the whiskey throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s. And then Ben Nevis actually started in 1983. It went 6 years without producing whiskey, and then was purchased by Nika in 1989. And Nika have a bit of Scottish heritage, as the founder of Nika actually studied organic chemistry at Glasgow University in the 1920s. And he married a Scottish woman known as Rita, who went back to Japan, and now I think she's known as the mother of Japanese whiskey over in Japan. So when they took over the distillery, they kind of started to modernize the 10-year-old as we know it now. That started to get introduced around about the late 90s. The McDonald's traditional started to get produced in the late 90s as well, only it got released in 2011. But the 10-year-old, certainly, that has been getting bottled since 1990. So that's, sorry, 2000. So that's been getting made since the late 80s. And there's actually been quite a lot of change in the distillery over the last 6 months as well. Obviously, as you're saying, Colin, and who first name Alex, but known as Colin locally, our director, he retired just last year, very sadly passed away just a few months after that. And since his kind of retirement, there's been a few rebrandings, hence the rebranding of the 10-year-old. Some of the distillery has been getting renovated. Yeah.
I'm just getting us a shot here of this 12-year-old Cask 811 bottle of 46, 1996. Non-chill filter and bottle in November 2008.
Cask 811, and my bloody god, is this a sensation?
This is sensational, and one of those things that you can get to see of Ben Nevis, and I'll try to see if you all bottlings of Ben Nevis. I love this kind of stuff, but you might not get to see, is like this mark there. That's a fingerprint from someone putting the label by hand using glue. Like, this is old school as you can get. And I bet, Ines, that some of the first bottlings, they were done with labels with glue and not with sticker labels. And it's like, that's one of the amazing things that we as geeks loves, is seeing the thumbprints of just
thumbprints,
or literally sticking the labels with glue. That would have gone quite through the early 2000s with some of these bottlings.
Yeah, you're totally right. And even today, a lot of our whiskey is boxed by hand by one of our members of staff. He's been here for about 12 years, and he does a lot of that. And even nowadays, with these bottles of 10-year-olds, the duty labels, we all got round in the office one day and put all of them on once the duty had been paid.
Show again.
So the little UK duty label down at the bottom here. So these were all put on by us. So we actually there's still elements of it that are still done by hand, and all of our single casks the label will be applied by hand still, I believe. And the distillery has always been quite a traditional one. We were actually the last distillery in Scotland to use brewer's yeast for the fermentation rather than distiller's yeast. And I believe that's actually something that changed when Nika took over, that we went to using distiller's yeast around about 1989. But until then, we were actually holding out with brewer's yeast, which would have given the whiskey prior to the Nika takeover quite a distinctive flavour in comparison to other whiskies of the time.
Let's who do we get? Daniel made us this.
Yes, Daniel made us.
He's the No, it's what is he? You know, a week and a half on lockdown or 2 weeks? He's like
It's hard to keep track
Oh,
of.
eight days, Jose. 8 days.
eight days.
We've-
Oh my god!
We've had 5 lockdowns in Brisbane, but nowhere near as much as you. So,
How many
yeah.
kids have you hanged already? Have you tried? or how many times have you already threatened them to hang them already? Have you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the next one. It's inevitable, unfortunately.
I can lend you some rope, mate, if you need to. I can lend you some rope. I got a couple that threaten them.
Jose, recording.
Sorry. We don't hang kids in this. It's illegal and it's really bad. We don't do.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So we're going okay up here for now.
Good.
Yes. Thinking of you all down there.
Well, Daniel, you are again another lover of Ben Nevis. I know that for a fact.
I am, and actually, quite coincidentally, I did a Ben Nevis tasting at the Queensland Malt Whisky Society on this exact day last year.
Oh my
So,
god!
There you go. Quite amazing. Yeah, some of these actually the first 2 we did.
The stars might have aligned.
Oh, there you go. It's amazing. Amazing. I'll share the photo later on my Facebook.
What do you reckon about this 12-year-old?
This one's stunning, absolutely stunning. I think, look, there's been a bit of description in the commentary before, but you know, Coca-Cola and just that it's the perfect amount of sweetness. It's Moorish and it's just I love it. I think it's brilliant whiskey.
It's a bit of cola. You're right.
It's cola. It's
cola. Yeah. It's amazing. It's like it's a mix between like a fresh brewed coffee, cola, and cocoa nibs.
And chocolate and coffee on the finish.
Yes, it's a savory nose, but it's a sweet palate.
Yep, it's wonderful.
And then go back to the bourbon cask, and you see the Beauty and the Beast.
Wow.
You see, you do this with a 9 and this 12, and you see it's like the Beauty and the Beast, which you love them both, but it's like, how would you choose? It's pretty amazing. Have one and the other. And again, we are tasting a 4th whiskey, and they're all still on par, like with the same kind of level of satisfaction, complexity.
Yes.
You know.
Great whiskeys.
Different whiskeys for different occasions. That's the way I'd put it. And more often than not, we'll do these tastings, and one will outshine the other, or one will really stick through, like dog's proverbials, and the other ones will sort of fade away a little bit. But all of these, I can continue to see like an occasion where I would want that one over the other one, or vice versa.
I want to ask Ines, you guys still producing, one of the very few distilleries still producing the ceramic jugs with the Nevis Dew, or the Dew of Ben Nevis?
Yep. So we still have them. We've got little decanters that hold 100 mils for our Nevis Dew, and we also have whiskey pouring jugs as well, and we've also got the kind of square decanters as well. Generally, though, we only bring them out for certain editions now. The most recent one to use it was a Model T Ford special edition, and that was, I think that was a single cask bourbon whiskey, I believe, but it was actually the reason it was called the Model T Ford edition was it came out in 2011, and it was for the 100th anniversary of somebody driving a Model T Ford up Ben Nevis, and for the 100th anniversary. There was a whole gathering in town. There was a new statue of a Model T Ford put in the town, and people weren't able to drive one up nowadays, but they did dismantle one, carry it to the top in bits, and reassemble it on the summit. So to celebrate that, we had one of our little porcelain ceramic decanters called the Model T Ford bottling, and I believe I get mixed up because there's been a few different whiskies in these decanters, but I think it was either our 10-year-old or it was a special bottling that was going into that, and it had like an image of the Model T Ford on it as well. So we still like to do them as well because they're lovely and traditional looking.
I love the fact that it's still releasing the ceramic jugs, right? And which originally was done as a souvenir, right? As a visitor send a souvenir. Everyone, if you go to Scotland, the only thing you come back with is with whiskey. Like that's what you buy. In Australia, you might come back with thongs and I don't know what else you come from Australia. Like you can
Tattoos.
abalone.
Yeah, abalone. Probably not going to put any
Abalone,
abalone.
Manuka honey. That's New Zealand. But if you go to Scotland, what you buy is whiskey, and whenever you go from anywhere in the country, you bring back whiskey.
Yeah.
You don't buy. You might buy like shortbread or stuff like that. But it's just whiskey. Why fill your luggage with shortbread?
Anything else?
Exactly.
You don't have enough
Right.
room for
So
whiskey.
at one time, the ceramic jugs became a trend because of is a really cool souvenir to have in cellar doors and visitor centers, and people would take it home. And that kind of discontinued because it's a production pain.
Anomaly.
No, production is a pain in the bottling because it's an old bottle on the bottling lines and everything. But distillers like Ben Nevis are very traditional. Keep on doing something like that. And
it was the 60s where it really kicked off. Probably done a little bit before, like in the 50s. But the 60s, it was the done thing. And then I think it died out probably in the 80s as much. But it's
that's like for everyone. But Ben Nevis we had here in the store until like maybe a year and a half ago. Some ceramic decanters that we had, and it was with the lacquer, with a wax top, and the cork on the side tied up. It's like a nightmare. Imagine like a nightmare of production. You gotta have a person that ties up that knot that have the cork, like just do that and put them in the box by hand. And put the wax, and
it's one of the most beautiful things about
it.
it.
But just the missing traditional stuff, that is what we kind of love of this whiskey. That's what we love of Ben Nevis.
I have to try and get a few of them in.
We will. I think we will.
I love that sort of stuff.
I reckon we move on now to the liquor library. This is going to be our next one, and then we jump over 10 years of aging in Ben Nevis. This is a cask that we bought ourselves from the whiskey agency. I know Carsten is a Ben Nevis lover, and I am a Ben Nevis lover as well. And we bought this because we found that it was absolutely stunning. And what do you reckon?
I love this dram. It's particularly interesting as well how this one goes from when you open up to when it gets a little bit of air too, because it's a bit of a bomb, right? And as soon as it opens
it's a caramel bomb.
As soon as it opens up, it is huge. It is funky. It's an absolute slap around the face, to be honest. But in a really, really good way. It's just huge. And then as it starts to get a little bit of air, those notes really start to turn into a lot of complexity. So those really big notes start to turn into their own little idiosyncrasies, and you get this really big bomb of a whiskey, but with little complexity sprinkled as well. It's a stunning dram and well picked.
It's very interesting because I can see how you can taste the McDonald's and the 12-year-old, which are like heavily sherried and on the peat side a bit more, and you see the projection to that 10 years later, and this is what is something that will become. Innes, why Ben Nevis, for example, doesn't have an official bottling 15 or 18 or 20-year-old? Why it's all single cask? Do you know, or this is just maybe like a stock pyramid problem? There's no availability. It's not like a. Have you ever asked that? Why there's no an Ben Nevis 18 like a recurrent bottling?
Well, that's a really good question, and I mean, I wish there was, but you're right. It's to do with the stock mainly, and actually in recent years, the 15 and 18-year-old has actually been going into the 10-year-old bottles, purely because there's been quite a shortage of 10-year-olds in recent years. So that's where a lot of it's been going. We do sometimes have there's a local hotel, Inverloch Castle Hotel, which is probably the kind of fanciest hotel in the area, and they get their own 15-year-old but that's only limited in limited numbers. There used to be a regular 18-year-old that was done kind of.
What's the
around
number
late
of it?
90s.
What's the name of the hotel? Because we need Tom, you know that to write anything down.
Inverlochie Castle Hotel is.
And Dave Phillips neither in Verloch.
They get their own. They get special bottles. I think right now they've had a few 13-year-olds. Certainly, that's what I saw last time I was there.
Don't tell anymore. That's enough. But no, that is great to see how distillery supports the local purveyor,
Local venues,
the local pubs, the local venues with an exclusive bottling that you go in there and you drink. I know Dom is gonna rent a room in there probably when he goes to visit the distillery, and probably Daniel Meadows too. And it's
One
like,
for himself.
can I get one of those to take away? But good to know. This is one of those things that you don't know unless you get someone like Ines telling you about like how will we get. But this is what we like ourselves to find these things are like, man, when you see this 21-year-old, it's stunning. Still doesn't take anything out of the rest because it's a different league, but you see it's like the 12-year-old is a baby 21. You know, you see the projection going on. It's like what's buried on the public now. It's this talking about like models, you know, projection models for different reasons now. But this is like projection model of this distillery. I would like to hear who do we ask about what did they think about our 21?
Azalio's, he's a bit of a fan of the 21, I think. Alex,
yes.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's sensational. It's really, really, really good. I need to get another bottle of that, so I'm hoping that they're still there. But they're great.
We don't have many anymore.
Don't have many. Many's more than one, though, isn't it? No, it's really, really good. It's got a bit of that funk to it. That's I guess maybe sulfur, but it's just
But this is when sulfur is integrated.
Good sulfur.
It gives like a.
It adds to it.
It doesn't smell like a matchstick.
No,
it doesn't draw air out of. It just complements it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is kind of sherry cask is the stylistically what Ben Nevis does great. Which distillers like sometimes I was talking with Ines today, so I usually make a parallel not comparison, but it's an analogy like Ben Nevis, like Bunnahabhain, that has this variety of like bourbon, unpeated, and
Sherry, the whole lot.
bourbon, lightly peated. Don't think about the heavily peated anyway, but the sherry unpeated, and honestly, this array of whiskeys that are amazing. And you know, it's like what keeps you interested a lot in they just deliver.
But everything is just nail on the head. It feels like no corners are really being cut in profile wise and palate and nose and everything. They all have an amazing place, and every whiskey is intriguing in its own little right. And this is, I know what Alex is kind of saying a little bit, and particularly at the start when this is opened up or just poured into the glass, it can maybe be a little bit stringent for some that aren't used to this type of whiskey, but given a bit of air, the complexities of it really start to come through, and it's a gorgeous.
If you smell it 21, and then you go back to the Signatory Vintage 10, you see how fruity the Signatory Vintage 10 is.
Yeah.
And then go back to the 10-year-old, and the 10-year-old doesn't shy away.
No.
Still like, you know, punch in there.
Still there. There's a note in the chat from Rob and a few others saying popcorn on the 21-year-old. I think that's
salted popcorn.
A very good call. When you pick this one with Carsten, why did this one for you stick out as the one that you chose out of a lot of options?
No, there were not many Ben Nevis to choose. It was this one, and then came other distilleries. That's what was available at the time.
Yeah.
And this was like, no, but this was like everything I want in a whiskey. Like it's just when you just drink the whole sample that he sends me, and just like I can drink this all the time, any day. Like this is just like it's my kryptonite. Yeah, Ben Nevis could be my like Springbank, my kryptonite. You know, I just like I'm soft for both distilleries, and this is very good. It's 47.7. No, this one is 50.6%. Drinks like 46%, or even less. You know, it's like not hot. I don't find it hot myself. Doesn't need any water to add. I don't think water would do any help to it.
Hasn't been something that's even come into my mind with any of these so far tonight.
Yeah.
And a great lineup so far. And I will say that I don't know how many of these there are left, but there are a couple. So if anyone wants to grab one, as well as
there's one less now.
There's one less now.
There's one less now.
As well as the 9-year-old. If anyone wants to grab one of those, the Signatory vintage, there's a code for tonight, and the code is Nevis.
Yeah.
All capital letters, just Nevis. And you can grab one of these and get in with a discount to say thanks for being in the tasting.
Just a background to Innes, as I always say on the tastings, Innes, my religion doesn't allow me to give discounts. I'm not allowed. But because we do these tastings to thank everyone for the tasting, we give a code that's only valid for the duration of the tasting, pretty much. Well, it's valid until tomorrow midday, but because we don't want anyone taking decisions under the influence of alcohol, which is fair, but we might remove that shortly. Anyway, but we allow everyone to buy
code valid for 10 minutes only.
Valid, they get a discount code just for supporting the tastings and being here. And you know, that's the way it is. It's like, you know, yeah, because all these people have made it possible that we continue doing these tastings every week
and get to do them. And
so it's a way to thank them for keeping us
sane
with a bad chat
and keeping everything going. And it's just falling more and more in love with Ben Nevis tonight as we go through this lineup. These are all sensational. I must say that what you've already said, these all have a place. And they're all distinctively unique and incredible. My pick so far would have to be the 12 OB. That sort of really, really pushed me back. I'm absolutely
it's very good. The 12
OB.
And unbelievable, like really good.
Yeah.
Paul Leyland is going to be very sad to miss this tasting. I know Mike is going to let him know. We make sure. Mike, you will let him know. It's well, he's probably there with the no more gaps.
Plastering it up.
Yep. Paul, just for instance, Paul is another of the troop that's been with us for a long time, and he's very far away in Queensland. So he's one of those customers that we got a few on the tasting, like Mike also is in New South Wales. Like all these customers that we acquired during COVID, they are interstate. They would have never come to the store, and suddenly we just have this community which is beyond borders, goes beyond borders, and it's amazing. You know, they make all this possible. A good friend of us, Paul and Mike, of course, and everyone else from Jackie Chan there too. He's on Sydney. And before we taste everything else, why don't we tell him about what's coming on?
Yeah, definitely. We've got a few interesting tastings, and the tastings coming up.
Yeah.
We've got some crackers. The thing is, a lot of them
are sold out
now. Are sold out based on just the I guess the demand of some of the tastings we've got coming up. So the Glenlivet tasting we have coming up. I think perhaps there might be a 15 ml pack available. Maybe there, one or two. So 15 ml packs, and that's Rolling the Valley Glenlivet Distillery tasting, similar to tonight.
We got a 1973 Cadenhead's 42-year-old there, which very promising whiskey.
Yeah. The artist tasting,
there's maybe one
I
or
think
two
there
packs.
might be 1 or 2 packs left. So if you want to get those, then you're pretty much scraping the bottom of the barrel.
To be honest, the artist tasting is unbelievable. We got an Imperial 20 years old, and we got a Caperdonic 25 years old. which are unreal. Of course, we got a Bunnahabhain 10-year-olds, and we got a Ben Nevis 15, and the Sullivan's Cove and the Penderyn.
Yeah.
Like pretty much the only time you would have been able to taste contemporary Sullivan's Cove at cask strength, which they never released that. 68 point.
And it's a tawny cask.
No, 67.8 tawny cask Sullivan's Cove.
It's sensational. So that artist tasting is going to be
Amazing.
Next level.
There's maybe like 1 or 2 tickets only left.
And we've just announced tonight. We do our yearly rum tasting. The rum tasting we did was very bloody good, but we've had some exceptional rums come across the table, and also a couple that we've had up our sleeves for a while. We've been like, what's the occasion? When can we open this? So we've decided to do a tip of the cane rare rum tasting. So we're opening a Marie Galante 14-year-old, the Vellier Royal Navy Tiger Shark, Savannah Distillery 11-year-old, the Guyana 16-year-old from LMDW.
I need to show the Biel, which is the Marie Galante.
The Marie Galante will be exceptional. This is a single cask from the distillery. And also we're going to make a fun little rum cocktail there at the start. So this is a bit of a senior rum tasting as opposed to maybe a normal, still very good, but not quite as rare bottles.
The single cask Biel, which is from Marie Galante, we tasted a similar cask for the Transcontinental rum line, and this is a very rare rum, like rare as rum can get of contemporary rums. Absolutely stunning and 100% aged in the tropics. So yeah, that's a really, really, really good Islam is on the whiskey bottling. And then Tiger Shark, which is Navy style rum bottled by Bellier. So this is a blend of Guyana, Trinidad, and some islands. Also, again, one of those very big, rich, and bone dry rums at 57.18% alcohol. So these are the two vedettes of the tasting, and the rest are exceptional too. So
I think those ones will sell out as well.
And Father's Day tasting.
We've got some 15 ml and 30 ml packs, and they're pretty well priced for the senior whiskies. Now, our Father's Day tasting as well that's coming up. Everybody just grab a ticket to the Father's Day tasting because it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I don't want to use the LD or the C word, lockdown or COVID, but we're probably still going to be in something. So this tasting is going to be a lot of fun. For those who didn't do our Father's Day tasting last year, it's on a Sunday, and we let the hair down a little bit, probably more so than these sort of tastings. We've got some great Aussie spirits. So King Lake Distillery, they're a Grady stand. We've got Launceston Distillery, one of their bourbon casks. Antagonists, some Melbourne guys have just released this awesome rum. We've got a little bit of My Brother Honey Liqueur, which I must say I've got a soft spot for. And we've also got the Beanley rum, the Transcontinental rum line in there. And we're going to make a cocktail, have a beer as well in the pack. So it's a pretty affordable pack tonight. I think if you get it, it's like $78, maybe a little bit less. And we're just all going to join together on Father's Day.
There's a lot of booze in that pack.
Just all going to join together and have a good afternoon. Starts at 3 p.m. So grab one for yourself, grab one for your dad if you'd like, grab one for any future dads you might know, or someone who's just.
And we know we're going to be logged in, so yeah. We're not going to be. I don't think I come into work on Monday anyway. We probably won't have a shop. We probably won't have a shop. We will be in between changing shops, so I might take the Monday off, and maybe we'll take the Monday off. You know,
yeah. So that's exciting. So a few fun things coming up. And sorry to hamper on about all the things coming up too much when we've got such amazing whiskies in front of us. We're about to pour out this 1997.
So there we go. Let's pour this 1997 sherry butt number 199 of 1997. One of the funny things of Ben Nevis is they start. Innes can tell this. You guys start from 0 or 001 every year to number your casks, because I've seen this in many casks. the number and then the year it's been the number of the batch and the year.
So yeah, we do it. We start it at number 1 every year for each type of cask. And actually, we had a special edition of the 10-year-old that was out last year called Batch Number 1, and that was specifically taken. It was a single cask 10-year-old taken specifically from the first cask of the batch for that year, and it was bottled at cask strength as well. So we start the bottlings, start the batch numbers at number 1 every year.
So this cask that we got here, it's bottled for Alembic Classic. Alembic Classic, I believe, is the importer of Ben Nevis for Germany. The Alembic Classic is and now those very big relationships of Ben Nevis, like La Maison de Whisky, those firm believers for a long time about the distillery. There's a lot of single casks on the market, on the secondary market that you can find. They are always exceptional. This one is a bottle of 55.8, yielded 481 bottles, bottle after 22 years. And in 2019. And let's have a taste, because I haven't tasted this whiskey, to be honest, yet. Ever. Oh wow, that's flowers.
Yeah, a little bit more delicate than that. So
Yes.
21.
Josh is saying, "Oh my." Let's get Josh on the oh my and ask him what is he thinking right now. What's going through his
Stuck out for you on this one, Josh?
Josh, what do you reckon now? Straight.
This one, the nose is lovely and floral, and I was like, yep. And then it hit my tongue. Oh, and oh my, oh damn was about the only thing that I can think of. It is lovely. It is wow.
The nose and the palate. You never expect the palate being so rich and full with the nose that is so pretty and floral, I would say. It's again another ace. This is like, and probably Dom is getting the
straps out,
reaching for the drawer and getting the nose strap up. Yeah. Ines, we joke that this sometimes we get to taste these whiskeys that we would need a strap to just fix the glass to the nose.
So I just walk around with it for the rest of the day.
Walk around with the glass. That's what we call it, the nose strap. We yet to design one, but you know it will happen, like the gym bus happens. We'll get a nose strap. Wow. Maybe we make it happen. Really? Yeah, we will.
For sure.
This is sensational, and I think like everyone's going like, oh wow. Owen's going, I think it's Fino. The only way to get these is like, I don't think Fino gets a little bit more rancier normally for this, so I wouldn't know. It doesn't say what is it, if it's Oloroso or
I think I'd read when I was doing the research on the bottle, the German the German company it was bottled for said it was a Fino cask, hence the color.
Really?
Because it's very similar color to the stuff like the 9-year-old, but you know it's got nearly another 12 years of aging on it. And I think the refill aspect is maybe the biggest factor, though. It could be that the first fill stripped all that sherryness out of it, and it's more of it's not really absorbed anything in the way of cask. It's preserved most of the Ben Nevis characteristics.
What do you reckon, Owen, about this tasting that we're doing and
pretty good?
The whole evolution of the journey.
Well, I can comment for a long time, but probably the thing that stuck out to me the most is that 9 Signatory. Do you remember when we opened it and I couldn't stop saying, oh, I think there's peat in here. I think there's peat in here. I don't get any peat now because we've gone McDonald's and then we've gone Signatory. I'm peat blind now in this profile, but that's not a bad thing. It's really highlighted all that custardy, lovely vanilla sweetness in the 9. So taking that sort of, I would love to have a bottle of a very peated whiskey and then a bottle of the 9. And again, we're back to that conversation of these 6 drams to highlight the lovely nuances in every bottle. The 12 is just that. I think that's my pick of the night, just because it's this lovely cola, syrupy, fruity, everything. It reminds me quite a lot of that Abelor 18, the La Maison cask we had recently.
Yep.
But I actually think this is much better. And I didn't think a 12-year-old 46% would be better than an 18 at like 60 odd. And I'm digging it. I relatively, obviously, only been with you about a year, so I've not had 2 or 3 years worth of Ben Nevis education like many people here. But it's a damn good distillery. It's a damn good distillate, and it's very rare that we can enjoy a bourbon cask and a sherry cask to the same level from a distillery.
Yeah, that's spot on what you say, and I would like to hear the opinions of some of the people that doesn't join so often that we don't get to hear. What do you reckon, John? We get Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
Jason, how are you, mate?
What are your thoughts on the
Long time no see. Thank you for joining tonight.
Good.
What do you reckon?
No, it is amazing how different just from the one distillery we get just from the different aging process and the different barrels and from the different bottlers as well. So yeah, it's quite fun just jumping around, getting the different tastes.
Can you get a pick? What's your pick, or what's your what would we do? Your 2 picks, or if you can put 1 or 2?
I definitely go for the smoky and peaty variety. So the McDonald's is definitely very interesting from my perspective. How that stacks up against some of the other peaty stuff, maybe like I think someone mentioned the Ardbeg. Someone's trying an Ardbeg, so it'd be interesting to understand how that compares with the McDonald's.
Ardbeg will be destroying this in the palate, like it's
yeah.
True. This is we just blind your palate like all at once. Maybe all the oils that Ardbeg has is like different kettle of fish. This is the only thing that I would compare this would be to maybe some of the Tobermory's that have a little bit of peat. Some of the Highland Parks or Bunnahabens that are like borderline, just a little bit of peat in there. Maybe Highland Park gets some of these, particularly the number 4 and number 6, I would say, like just a tad of that kind of smokiness. But they are too tailored right now, the Highland Parks, to be honest, to be able to tell. But saying that I see what there's no right answer here. I think like Owen picks number 4, no, number 3. You pick number 2, and then I'm going to number 6 myself. But also, I'm really enjoying number 3, so I can't decide. Which is always the show of a nice whiskey tasting, I would say. Let's get Roger. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well, Jose. This is a great tasting, and I agree it's hard to pick a winner. Probably the number 6 for me probably is, but number 4 was also great. But I'm happy to drink Ben Nevis. So you'd have to be a lucky person who works for that company, wouldn't you? So.
We're very envious of Innes now, right now, I reckon. I would say this won't be the last time Innes will be joining us. I think it's very nice that he's joined and now we establish a good relationship with Celador. Maybe we can sneakily get a few things to share with the maybe we chat about that later. But that's the whole thing of the distillery being distillery for whiskey drinkers.
Yeah.
There's an interest from the distillery side to connect with drinkers, with whiskey drinkers, and there's an available amount of exceptional casks to be able to share and be able to continuously excite everyone, I think. How many Ben Nevis could be our second or our 1 second. It's Ben Nevis and Spring Vine tasting that we do every year that sell out like straight away.
They go quickly, but it's the caliber of people who come are always the the best whiskey enthusiasts, and in terms of the people that come to these tastings are always the ones that come to the shop, and are the best for the people to be around in terms of the whiskey scene. It's a cracking distillery, and it draws the best caliber of enthusiast and customer. It truly is.
And how good it makes a difference to have like Ines telling us about
Tell us about them, yeah.
the distillery. Ines, tell us. You show me a few bottles, and the one with the black label, and this is probably no one else in this chat, and many people in this side of the world has seen this bottle. I'm going to highlight you with the new bottlings. Spotlight for everyone. Ines, show us. This is a new release of Ben Nevis that will shortly. How long has been this release?
Oh, hello.
So this one here has actually been. This only got launched.
We lost him for a little bit. He will be back shortly. In the meantime, we just drink
Coriolis.
Yeah.
Wow, that looks like an absolute cracker.
Pretty sure. Yes, yeah. This is very good tasting. Like this is like
it's been next level.
Yeah, there he is. Ines, we get you back.
Yeah, I think our Wi-Fi here seems to cut out every hour because it happened at 25 minutes past last time as well.
You got to wind it up.
This is going to be a non-age statement single malt. I believe I'm not. Don't quote me on this because they haven't officially told us how old it is, but I believe it's about 8 years old. First fill bourbon casks. And that's it. So no sherry cask in this one at all. So far, I've only tried it twice, but so far people say it's very, very lovely and sweet, sugary sweetness. There's a little bit of that kind of tang that you get off that bourbon cask as well. A little bit kind of slight sourness to it too. But it's Coriolis. By the way, I heard somebody asking what Coriolis is. That's actually there's two little lochs on the north face of Ben Nevis. One of them is called Coriolis, and it merges with the other one eventually to form our water source. So that's why we've named this whiskey after that as well. But this one, like I say, only came out a week. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow that it came out, and it is only available in the distillery right now, but it will be getting released more widely in the future. And it'd be brilliant for you guys to try this one out and see what you make of it. Particularly since, like you say, a lot of there is so much variety kind of in the distillery, and we don't have any regular whiskies right now that are only done in bourbon casks, but this will become the first one that we've done.
It sounds like they heard our prayers, and there is a bourbon cask Ben Nevis being released, and we will enjoy all that overripe banana.
It's what we've been singing about
the milk bottles
for a while. Overripe banana, milk bottles, the best possible way. Like this 9-year-old just doesn't go away.
I like everything. I don't want to finish any of these glasses. I continue like nosing them all. They are all stunning. And we got the what was Cora? As to remember Gaelic for me, yes, I've been in Uruguay and it's a bit difficult. Cora.
So Cora is just a Corrie. So that's essentially just the kind of Corrie that we get the water from. And leash, believe it or not, I've actually tried to find out what leash means, but it seems to be impossible. Yeah, I've tried to find a translation. I've asked people who speak Gaelic. I've contacted the local museum and local archives to see if anybody knows where this name came from, and nobody seems to know exactly what it means. But Cor means Corrie, as in a corrie on a mountain, you know.
Yeah.
We got Dave Phillips there, and he's not. We just got him without the shredded cheese, and he would be having a ball, I reckon.
Oh yeah.
And he might have joy around, maybe to tell us what Coriolis, but that's the second question though. David, what do you reckon about tonight?
I was going to show you a bit of Casa history. So I know that you had one.
Oh, you got one.
Now, Jose, this is the first and only bottle that I bought from you that I bought two at the same time. I very, very rarely buy two bottles. So the first one went very quickly, but this one is unopened at the moment.
Oh, good. I buy it back.
And I've never, I wasn't really. I bought that on the taste because we did a tasting. I thought it was fantastic, and I couldn't afford not to have two. which is very unusual for me. But actually, I've never had the 10-year-old, the standard bottling. And actually, tonight, my favourites are number 4 and number 1, because I think the number 1 is just, it reminds me like, really good 10-year-old Springbank. It's just something I will go to and drink and really enjoy. And my taste, it's quite unusual to go for the first one in the night. So well done. I think
it goes for the young one. It's and very unusual. They
the other end of the stick, but
but it's good speaks on the distillery. That seasoned drinker still against like what I was saying. The same thing is like it shows that 10-year-old is such a solid dram that you don't need to be drinking really high age statements in certain whiskies, because there's distilleries like Ben Nevis that provide you of a young age statement which is well priced, and you still get a good drinking bottle.
It's a cracking bottle. I think Dave's spot on. The 1 and the 4 as well share probably the most similarities compared to the rest of the lineup as well, in that they're pretty large whiskies, and the 10 is just continues to blow me away always. It's cracking.
What do you reckon? Brew is there. Brew from Serbaco. I didn't see you. Where is he? Did he left?
Might have.
I don't see him there.
Might have gone.
McDonald's, he might have left.
Sensational so far, Scott. Brickhill.
I don't.
I can see you've got the glasses in there, mate, and you've been nosing very attentively tonight, mate. What are your thoughts on the lineup?
Oh, you reckon, Scott?
First off, thank you for putting such a fantastic night on. This really goes to show a very broad spectrum of different variety with the spirit. There's fruitiness, and then there's a little bit of salt down the end. Personally, I'm not a massive peat head, but number 2 was just blew me away. That was my pick of the night. And then number 3, it was just to have the contrast between a couple of the sherries here and then go back, and it just the bananas just jump out of the glass with number 3. So Ben Nevis, amazing. Thank you.
That's an excellent synopsis, Scott. Great summary, and thanks for joining tonight again. And please, you enjoyed these as much as we are.
This is one of those tastings that when we do distillery tastings, for example, Innes, we done in the past like independent bottler tastings that just independent bottlers range. So you end up jumping from a Benriach to Glenalachie, and then you go to an unnamed Speyside, and then you might go to a Lechag, and so it's like different distilleries all around. But when we started this year doing a cycle of single distillery tastings to get profiles, right? So when you get to taste some distillers and you go through like your 10, 12, 15, 18, 21, 25, say like that, you not normally want to go back. You're only 25, and basically because the distillery makes these on a way that the complexity, of course, is increasing, of course, as the price does, but you don't normally want to go back. So when you're tasting whiskey number 4, 5, and 6, you don't really want to go back to number 1 or 2, because there's so much above, which you kind of expect. That in this case of Ben Nevis, you see solid all across.
Yeah, they all shine beautifully.
Right, as from a geek point of view, it's a solid all across. Like I love to afford to drink this 22-year-old every day, but I will happily drink the 10 and the McDonalds, which are a lot more budget, but they're like
across the line, yeah.
And I just like they're still like really good, all of them, and that's.
Innes, I guess from you, these are a couple of whiskies that you'd be surrounded by daily. A few maybe not surrounded by as much. A couple that might be the first time you're trying in a few of the older OBs. What are your thoughts on the lineup and some of these whiskies in general, the ones that perhaps you haven't come across?
Well, I've got to be honest, I was absolutely thrilled when I saw what ones you were trying, because it's there's a few the independent bottlings I had never seen. So to see them, it was fantastic. And the 22-year-old right at the end, I saw those before they were getting ready to be shipped out when they're to buyers when it came out, and it's kind of that way where you're kind of looking through like a glass window at all this whiskey just going past, and you want to be able to try some of it. But to see that was amazing. The 10-year-old and the traditional, like you say, I see every day. But that doesn't you don't ever really get. I mean, I probably wouldn't ever get sick of any whiskey, but particularly those whiskies, I don't really ever. I always love coming back to them, and the 10-year-old in particular is one I really get pleasure out of any time, really. And I'm just thrilled to see how fond you all are of Ben Nevis. You know, because like I was saying in the comments. And across Scotland and the UK, Ben Nevis isn't a particularly well-known distillery now, purely because a lot of the whiskey is used for independent bottlings or is exported. So it's just amazing to see that there's people who have such a high opinion of it, and it's on the other side of the planet as well. It's absolutely fantastic, you know. And it's I'm so glad that I think the selection has been amazing.
Thank you, and we love the distillery, and it's great, you know, because you do this every day pretty much out of normal circumstances, and you know you 10 McDonald's, and you have other distillery releases that you get the visitors to taste, but then being able to put an array of 6 and sitting down and put them on a context. They're not against each other, they complement each other, but put them all together in a context. You see how solid your 10 and your McDonald's is when you have a bunch of seasoned whiskey drinkers next to you, and they're tasting 22-year-old and still going like, oh, that McDonald's just delivers, you know, and doesn't shy away. No one, not even one person is this like this. Even the 10 has shied away. I was tasting a 22-year-old, so which is good. He as a cellar door visitor centers person, it's probably really good to hear that kind of feedback. That you might not to get it all the time on a regular sort of tasting basis, but
definitely. Our location in Fort William, we're right on a main road, and a lot of the footfall that we get is people who happen to be passing through and see a distillery and think, I'll go there. It's like, yeah, and I mean it's great because you're getting more people into whiskey, which is great. But quite often, if they're trying 4 or 5 different whiskies, they'll be oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that one's really nice as well. And it's and that's absolutely fine, you know. But it's lovely to actually see you guys really have such a great selection and to be appreciating them all as well. Particularly because in terms of the special whiskies you have there, those we probably only have one special whiskey in at any one time. So to be able to get a tasting with 4 of them, along with 2 of the kind of mainstays, it's just fantastic. And it's
it's been sensational for us as well, and I dare say we're still in a bit of a weird climate with the COVID stuff down here in Australia, but I think that once things start to get to a position where we can travel a little bit more, we're
going to Scotland, and we're staying in
a delegation, a Casa de Vinos delegation.
We're staying in the Inverloch Castle. Oh, we know that now.
Dom's going to have one for him and one for his whiskey.
We stay in the Inverloch Castle, and we get a couple of takeaways all together. And then we go and visit Innes there, and
we will. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Well, you're always welcome, and we would love to have you. It'd be great to show you around the distillery for real. I've got plenty of photos if you want to see any of the rooms right now. I can show you them, and but it'd be great to have you guys over for real. And
I still have quite a bit of whiskey in here.
To see some photos for sure.
But
and also it's 9 and we don't really have anything else to do.
We already
yeah, we'd love to see some photos
after the tasting. What do you want to do? Any work? No. Innes, tell us a little bit. Show us a little bit about the distillery around.
Sure.
Just
So
to say in everyone that Ines very nicely offered to do a kind of light tour, but he excused that the connection might not be right, so we decided maybe that was not the best way.
Yeah.
And hence he's put some photos for
Together.
us to have a look at the distillery. So
Would love to.
yeah, man, just
Here, I can just
go for it.
show you them. Yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how well the connection's held up today, because if you can see the walls behind me, they're about 2 feet thick, old stone. So quite surprised that I'm still here. But
Are you vaccinated? That's probably the good reception is because you're vaccinated. Yeah.
yeah, I
If
got my
5G gets-
second one on Sunday, so it's actually lucky just in time.
You get better reception on Sunday. That's they get better solid 5G up through the walls. They say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at
So-
a little bit of the distillery.
So this is our main malt bin, 70 tons in there, and most of the Ben Nevis building is from the 1860s, and that's where the room I'm sitting in is the old boardroom, and that's from the 1860s as well. So that was our first big expansion. A lot of the equipment is from the 1960s. There's our mash tun.
So your malt mill. So what we're looking at, go back to this. So your malt mill, when you.
So this is the malt bin actually. So this is just where we store our malts. This is one of the silos.
So what we're looking
the
at,
mill
this is the roof there. That's a photo. That's not horizontal. That's vertical.
That's vertical, yeah.
That is that's all full of malt of barley.
Walkway up there.
Wow.
Yeah, so about 70 tons in there, and then we've got we've got four other malt bins in the next room, which would hold another 30-40 tons. So we can hold about 100 tons, 120 tons at full capacity. You're looking at 9 tons of malt for one batch of whiskey, which would be a few thousand bottles. There's our mash tun, and this is, believe it or not, this is already about 50 years old, this mash tun, but we keep it very clean. So
You said 50?
It's looking good for 50.
Yeah,
Oh my
44
gosh.
years old, so it's pushing 50 years old, 44 years exactly. So it's quite clean, but that's
That was for the cleaning for the photo.
yeah, that's it. We got a shine in it.
We got
This is Tommy, our mash tun as well.
Oh my gosh, that's that's a big mash tun.
Yeah, but we use 67,000 liters of water for each batch, each mash.
67,000.
Yeah, and we take 40,000 liters of water onto the fermentation. So 67,000.
So how many mash tuns you got? One?
Just the one, yeah.
Just the one. So you got 4 mills and 1 ton, 1 mash tun.
We've got 5 silos. We've got just 1 mill though.
1 mill, okay.
So the thing in the last photo was the silo for storing our
The
malt.
storage, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the mill should be the next photo, I think. I know that's not. There it is. So there's our mill there. So
that looks old.
Yeah, it's from 1960 actually, and the nameplate here, Porteous. There's a family that made mills for a lot of Scottish distilleries, over 100 Scottish distilleries, I believe they made mills for, and very reliable mills. And sadly, they were so reliable that once all the distilleries had one of these mills, the company ended up folding. So it's a bit of a sad story, but ours is from 1960, and it keeps going and hasn't really broken down on us too badly ever. So quite happy with it. And then there's our wort cooler as well. So all of our wort will pass through here.
Wort
So
cooler.
yeah, that's the exchanger there. Let's see, you should be onto the washbacks now. So here's one of our washbacks.
Wooden washback. Is that Oregon pine or oak?
It's spruce actually.
Is what?
Spruce.
Spruce. Oh wow.
Yeah. So we've got two spruce washbacks and 6 stainless steel ones. 50,000 litre capacity.
So do you mix the worts or they get distilled and bottled, the distill and barrel separate? The worts they go on spruce and the worts they go on.
We'll mix them in most cases.
Okay, yeah.
And there's our wort soon to be washed. That's bubbling away. And here's a better view of
the
room. So So yeah, these are actually only 12 years old, our washbacks.
Only 12.
Yeah, because spruce has got such a pronounced grain, they degrade quite quickly because of the heat and moisture. You find a lot of distilleries that have wooden washbacks will use fir, and it's got quite a wide grain, which
Douglas
makes it,
fir.
yeah, makes it kind of longer lasting. This should be a photo of the whole. So we've got 2 here, 2 along here, then the 2 wooden ones, and then the stainless steel ones.
Yeah.
There's an inside one, it's empty.
Yeah.
And then this is underneath as well. So they do go, they're about 30 feet deep,
There's
each one. Yeah.
How long would they normally last? The what ones?
They're about 25 years we'll get out of them.
Right.
So yeah, they'll probably need replaced in the next 10 or 12 years.
That-
The steel ones are about 50 years old.
Are they warmed by a coil inside, like a water coil?
No, that they heat naturally actually. So the yeast creates a lot of heat when it ferments, and that's the heat that's all the heat.
So they're not temperature controlled at all.
No, not temperature controlled at all.
And
it can get quite hot in that room.
And the stainless steel are jacketed or anything or no?
No, just as they are.
Okay, wow.
Just so.
Amazing.
Yes, you can actually sometimes you can feel the heat coming through them. It's quite thick steel, right enough. It's about
Yeah, but I guess in Australia they don't really need to be jacketed. For example, I would thought some in Scotland when it means like deep of winter, that heat might not cut it through, but it's like I can see it can.
Yeah, well, and particularly in Fort William because we're so close to we're on the west coast. And we're quite near the Gulf Stream, so we don't get particularly cold winters. We don't often have prolonged periods where it's below freezing outside. You'll get much colder weather over in the east of Scotland and Aberdeenshire and Speyside. That's where they get lots of snow. But generally, our winters will be quite mild and wet, maybe about 6 or 7 degrees, which is quite warm, kind of standard for our winters, really.
Yeah.
There's our still house now.
That is stills.
Yeah, so four pot stills. The 2 at the back are our wash stills, and the 2 at the front are our spirit stills.
Those ones are jacketed. That's a jacket, the black part. Yeah, right.
So they are jacketed.
That's the jacket. Yeah.
Steam heated as well, so there's a steam coil inside.
Steam heated and jacketed outside. Yeah. Shani's asking what temperature do the ferments go through? I would say probably they will start maybe around 25, 20 or 8 degrees, and then you just let it go, whatever it goes. And
yeah, it normally gets up round about as high as about 40, and at that temperature, that's when the yeast stops.
Yeah.
So the yeast actually ends up creating enough heat that it just denatures it by itself, and that's normally around about 40 degrees or so.
Yeah.
So there's our spirit receivers, and here's our spirit safe as well.
Spirit safe.
You can see our actual raw spirit coming through there. Our new make is coming through that pipe.
Wow, that's awesome. Very cool.
It's still all done by hand. There's not much there's not much in the way of automation really at the distillery.
Yeah.
It's still quite traditional.
So there we got like pretty straight pots and slightly straight, almost facing down line arms. So they get a lot of oil and there's not too much reflux in there.
No, not much at all. And actually, this photo makes it look like the neck is more angled than it is. They're actually not too far off horizontal.
Right. So that's when you get all the oils and the Ben Nevis taste, which captures a lot of that flavor, distillation. Yeah.
So actually, the reason there's a lot of scaffolding here is that eventually, within the next couple of years, we're hoping that because the oldest part of the distillery is directly through this wall, and we're hoping that by the time it's restored, they'll be able to knock through this wall here and have a viewing platform. That's the plan over the next few years. So there is quite a lot of change happening here at the moment, and it's really nice to see it getting kind of renovated and freshened up.
Can't wait to come and see it.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant to get you guys over and to all have a look.
The whiskey bus.
The whiskey bus.
And there's Craig with some of our casks. So this is generally where the casks are filled. and then stored. That's one of our smallest sheds, and then we're on to the new sheds as well.
The new shed. So
That's sorry, what was that?
yeah, you go.
I was just going to say, yeah, the new shed's the one with the racking. This is one of our older sheds.
Yeah.
Nice old style and also new style sheds to have a little bit of variety on the maturation. Dunnage.
Yeah.
Totally. How many dunnage you said? 8 or 9 or something like that, dunnage, and then
yeah, there's I think there's 9 dunnage warehouses, and then there's the one that's the rack, and that's it. But yeah, the majority is dunnage still. Like I say, it's kind of the traditional. We're quite traditional here,
Yeah.
So yeah, here's more again, and you might even see some of the. So there's grain whiskey in this one here. I believe it'll be Girvan grain whiskey, and that'll be going in our blends that we make.
Yeah.
And then some of the other ones have got single malt, like these ones here.
Yeah. And do you know about the source of the sherry casks? Do you guys have you buy that out of brokers? Do you got a constant supply from some Spanish bodega, or but you don't own sherry distilleries, sherry wineries like Eddington does, or so what's...
I don't believe we do actually. What I'll do is, I'm not certain what the arrangement is, but I'll find that out, and if we do another one, I'll make sure I have that answer for you. Because yeah, I'm not too sure. Right now we're using Oloroso sherry casks. That's what seems to be most of the sherry casks at the moment. I'm not exactly certain of the arrangement about whether we have a kind of constant supply set up, or whether it's what.
Just that's a geek question. You don't, it's not obliged to. It's a geek question that we'll probably get all these.
Delve into the
probably Innes has gone more in deep than our usual tastings, which is great.
Yeah, it's been amazing, Innes, and to have that tour which you've just given us, thank you so much, because it was so good to see. And I guess with the new storage space opening up there, and also the renovation of the older distillery, what are some of the sort of, I don't want to say some of the things we can expect from Ben Nevis over the next few years, because there's such history.
There is one, he told me about maybe something that might be coming in the near future, but you're not going to tell that, because I promise if we can source some of these, we open my 10-year-old white port, which is a very rare bottle. White port Ben Nevis is like a unicorn, as unicorn can get in whiskey. But don't tell him about the oldie one. Don't tell him about the rest.
Don't tell him about the oldie one.
That we leave that one for maybe a special tasting that we might do later in the year.
What's exciting at the distillery at the moment that you are allowed to say?
Well, for example, we do have this one out. Which is just out this moment, really. Sadly, I'm not sure how much of the 10-year-old we're going to have over the next few years. I think it's going to be quite scarce over the next 3 years, I've heard. But the 10-year-old is going to stay, even though it might be quite hard to find, but it is staying. We've had the traditional single malts being rebranded. There's I'm not sure if you might have heard of our Glencoe blended malt, which we used to make. It was cask strength. It was a triple malt. It was 8-year-old, and it was bottled at 58%. That's getting changed. It's still going to be a triple malt, except it's going to be 10 years old, and it's going to be at 46%, I believe. So that's one that's going to be coming out soon. We're getting some rebranding, more kind of general rebranding on some of the other blends that we've got, I believe. And like I say, a lot of it will be kind of freshening up the distillery in a way, and just giving it a little bit of TLC, because over the last couple of years there were certain parts that were starting to look a little bit unloved. So there's, like I say, a lot of renovation. That rack warehouse has been a big project, and I suppose just kind of keeping the place ticking over and keeping some whiskies coming out,
yeah.
And you don't need to improve any. You guys don't need to improve any of the whiskey.
Any of the elements.
It's just basically revamping the chassis.
And I think
revamping the getting pimped up visitor center
Yeah.
distillery, and
the adherence to tradition is one of the things that make you guys so unique and so loved. And tonight we've been witness to this with this incredible tasting. It's such a great lineup, and again, I'm struggling to pick my favorites. For me, definitely the 12 is just my pick of the bunch, but there's absolutely none that I wouldn't take in.
the 12 is stunning for a 12-year-old, and the 21 is that's what I expect about 21-year-old Ben Nevis, bro. But the 12 is such an eye-opener. Like, my God, what was this 96 was every 96. FYI, anywhere you see a 96 Ben Nevis, just buy it. Doesn't matter what it is. 96 Ben Nevis is like an iconic whiskey is going to be, and they're all going to be legendary one day. In maybe 20 years' time, you'll be regretting not having any 96 Ben Nevis. You can see now that 12-year-old is amazing. The one that we bottle at 21-year-olds is excellent, and the 97, which is also similar vintage, by 96, 97 Ben Nevis are like stunners.
Few and far between. Yeah, they're all absolute crackers.
Let's just before wrapping everything up, should we get a couple of our regulars to wrap up and see what they
definitely love to hear a few thoughts on the
Guns. He's by himself today. He moved out.
Yeah,
Guns. You left, boy. How you reckon the tasting today? Enjoy it?
Yeah. I thought it was sensational. There's so many different flavors that are coming out in the different whiskies. I mean, we've got melons, we've got the apples, we've got the sweet caramels, and quite honestly, I don't think age even comes into it. But these are all standalones, I think. And I think it was said earlier on, like that it's difficult to sit down and drink these whiskies and think that they all come from the same distillery. They are just that different, but all sensational.
That's a good wrap up.
Nail on the head there, Gurns. I think that's an excellent call.
One more, Daniel Matters there.
Summarizes it well.
Daniel Matters is loving it. I can see that.
I loved it. Absolutely.
Isn't that Ben Nevis addict?
Yeah.
I am a bit of a Ben Nevis addict. I think my picks. Look, I agree that the 10-year-old distillery bottling, stunning. Kind of for me, that represents the sum of all the parts. If that makes sense. But if I had to pick two other than the first one, I would go for the Signatory and the one following, the 1996 single cask. Fantastic.
Yes, it's an excellent call. And I think, to be honest, we can go to everyone now, and everyone's going to have
a different choice,
an excellent opinion, but a different choice. And that's one of the most amazing things about this lineup. We haven't gone to David yet. David, I'd love to know your thoughts on
David Till,
that is, on your thoughts of these ones so far tonight.
How are you, David? Long time.
Yeah, good to see you guys again. I've absolutely loved this one. I'm a bit of a fan of Ben Nevis. Sometimes we have these tastings, there's one Ben Nevis in there, and that's often my pick. I just love the variety that Ben Nevis get out of just that one sort of thing. It's quite lovely. My pick is very, very, very hard, but I think the Cask 11, I love that one, and of course the 22-year-old. But yeah, Cask 11, I'm loving it.
Yeah, a good pick and good call, David, and it's been sensational tonight. Probably one of my favorite tastings of the
I
year.
think this was one of those tastings that it's just excellent. That's the whole thing. Ines, thank you for joining, man. It's amazing to have someone at the distillery. Your knowledge is great. You're a great host, and
you've got a little Ben Nevis fan club down here at the end of the earth.
Yeah, we look forward to inviting you to many more tastings, and it's going to cost all of us a lot less to do them from here than just going over to Scotland. And
we all want to be there, but for now it's great to be able to do them like this.
Yeah, we appreciate a lot your time that we're taking you from the day. And we can't wait to do another one in maybe 4 or 5 months or something like that, and get to taste some of the maybe some new releases and some old varieties. And it's been amazing, man.
I'll keep you in the loop with anything that's coming out, and I'll make sure that you're able to get your hands on some of the whiskey. Yeah, but it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me, because it's been lovely to chat about just about whiskey in general, but especially to be able to chat about our whiskey with people that are enjoying it as well. So, and it's a really brilliant thing you've got on the go here, and I'm really delighted that you asked us to be involved as well. So thanks very much for that.
Thanks, mate. And as I said, we are recording tasting, so we'll send you a link so you can show it to the bosses, and says like, you're just not worth drinking for hours. I'm like, these guys, where's Innes? No, it's not an online tasting. It's like, oh, really? No, we no. And actually, we do record them because that's like I was saying. We got a few of our customers that sometimes even they just get the tastings and they do it on their own time. Because they might have other commitments, and
so others will do it in their own time.
Yeah, so we
put it
on YouTube on a private link, and we let everyone know. So thanks for your time, man. This has been really good. And
cheers.
Salute for everyone. Thank you very much, and see you guys soon. Have a good night, everyone.
And enjoy the rest of your drams if you've got any left. Thank you so much to Innes and the Ben Nevis team for allowing us to try these sensational whiskies and have these awesome drams tonight. It's been one of my favorite tastings of the year.
Yeah, we'll say so. Take care,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thanks, Innes.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
Have a good night, all.
Salute.